part one of an ongoing series. We are going to be partnering with the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce over the next few months to bring technology to every business professional that we can get in front of, because there's a lot of things about technology that are confusing. Russell and I eat, live, and breathe this stuff every day, and we still have to look things up from time to time and review them. And we wanted to start with something that we get asked about all the time when we meet clients, and that's our Microsoft 365 licensing. How do you pick a license? What comes in each license? Can I add things to them? And that's how we're going to break this down today. With that, I'll introduce Russell Smith.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And thanks to Courtney and Janan for organizing too. So today we're going to be looking at Microsoft 365. There's a lot of marketing. They run pretty constant ads. We've been a lot of ads about Teams lately on TV, which is a part of 365 as well. So we'll be looking into that. But really, in a nutshell, Microsoft 365 is their umbrella brand for their subscription-based cloud communication tools. And they kind of fall into these general buckets of email, and that's usually where people start, and that's email, right? But that also includes calendar, contacts, all those good things. It also includes cloud file sharing and collaboration. So that's in two forms. That's OneDrive, which I like to think of, that's the same as your My Documents folder. It just happens to be in Microsoft's cloud. So that's your personal storage. And they give you a terabyte of space, which is larger than most people's hard drives. Yeah. Our average hard drive we ship in a business system is a quarter that size. Then there is SharePoint, and think of that like your shared network drive from a server, the S drive, where people collaborate and share files, only that happens to be located in Microsoft's cloud. There are also a lot of cool collaboration tools, and you've seen these ads for Teams, which is their chat, message, video calls, audio calls, telephones, real-time collaboration. There's the Office suite, and we're all familiar with Microsoft Office, but you can actually license and pay for that as part of a 365 subscription. That's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, plus you get some of the more powerful but less used tools like Publisher and Access. You can even add things like Project and Visio. There's some good planning and scheduling tools that they've been coming out. A lot of those have come out just this year, honestly, since COVID. And really kind of the sort of icing on the cake, and this is one of the things that you roll out later, but they have some very powerful business intelligence tools. So tools to track how your staff is spending their time, how much time they're spending in meetings, stuff to look at workflows and efficiencies.
Russell, I should probably point out two things. First, for everyone in the audience that wants a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, we're happy to send it to you. Just email us afterwards. And we are recording this, and the Chamber will have it up on their website at a later date as well. That way you can go back and watch it again and again and again, because I know listening to my voice, listening to Russell is what you want to do with your spare time.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So
Thank
next
you, Mike.
slide.
All right.
Microsoft options. And, Russell, when you and I were putting together this concept for this project, I started with Microsoft 365 is like Baskin Robbins. There's like
it's literally over twice more than Baskin Robbins, Mike. Last time I checked, I think there were 72 different license types available.
Good grief. But you think that there are 3 or 4 that the everyday business owner should be looking at seriously?
Right. Well, I think you start, like any hard task, you break it down into parts to make it easier. And so rather than thinking about 72 licenses, we want to kind of break it down. Microsoft has plans, which are packaged such that they're going to have, as I say, most apps for most users. So you're going to kind of fall into one of 3 or 4 different plans. And most of your staff, depending on what type of organization, what size organization you are, you've got a set of plans to select from. You're going to pick one of those 3. And that's going to be your base. And so really it's about selecting for my staff, which one of 3 plans are they going to be on based on their individual needs. And That's not too hard. That's a manageable task, and I'm going to show people how to do that in a minute. And then you build out from there. So one of the things that I love about 365 is this is not set in stone. Because it's a month-to-month license, it's very flexible. So you don't have to commit to any major decisions. You can test things out, you can scale things, you can change them, you can roll things back without a penalty. So I say my philosophy with all this is you start in manageable chunks and you build out your functionality as you go. And the first part of that is the plans. And then we have some add-ons, and then there's some standalone licensing. So really the plans are going to fall into basic, and that's probably the most common. So that is email, where like I said, most people start. It's all the cloud services though, so it's not just email. You also get the Teams collaboration, you get OneDrive, and you get SharePoint. And then you have some people, and that's good for staff that don't need a copy of Office, or they already have a copy of Office. Let's say they just bought a copy of Office 2019 earlier this year. You don't want to waste that money you spent. Just set them up with this basic plan for right now. In a few years, you can upgrade the plan. Apps, if they just need the Office suite, so you've got email with Google, or you've got email somewhere else, you're happy with your email, or that person doesn't need email. Maybe it's a front desk computer at a doctor's office where people check in. If you just need the Office suite, you just need an apps license. If you want both, and this is probably the most common over time, is I want my email and the cloud services, and I want the Office suite. That's the standard license. Then lastly, there's some companies that maybe the company provides a cell phone to their staff. It's a company-owned device. And so the company wants greater control over that device. They want to be able to manage that device. They want to be able to erase it if something happens. Then maybe you want a premium license for that person because they've got company-owned equipment and you want to have more management of that, regardless of where they are, in or out of the office. There are add-on licenses. So this is sort of step 2, but I want to add some functionality. Probably the most common these days is people want to add a conference bridge to their team meetings, the same way you have a conference bridge on Zoom calls. And that's a $4 license to just add on to any of the plans. There you go. There are also some standalone licenses for very specific types of roles in your organization. So not everybody needs project, but you might have, say, 3 project managers who need it all the time. You can assign a license for project just for those 3 people. You don't need to have the expense of licensing it for your entire staff. And so you can sort of add these a la carte role-specific options.
So Russell, you pointed out a couple of things there that should be big takeaways for business owners that are watching this presentation. First, there are multiple plans you can choose, and your company doesn't have to choose the same plan for every employee. You can mix and match. And more importantly, for that premium platform, that's really important to anybody that is facing a compliance standard. Medical,
correct.
Retail with PCI compliance, government contractors looking at NIST or CMMC. If a compliance comes into your conversation, then that premium plan giving you the device management, the threat protection is probably something to look at really hard.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things, that's the kind of thing that we help our clients with, your IT department, your MSP, if you have another one. That's the kind of thing that they'll help you with, is help you determine your compliance needs on that side and which license. Yeah.
All right. I think you touched on this a little bit, but why 365? But yeah, it really is a universal platform, isn't it?
Right, and so that's one of the things is, like I did just touch on it now, it's very flexible and scalable. So these are month-to-month licenses. There are a little bit of discounts for year plans, but there's really no penalty for changing your license type. So you basically, you buy the licenses you need for the staff you have now. You're not making a big commitment. That's important right now, obviously. Where we have to be very flexible and scalable. We don't know how the economy is doing, and so we see booms, we see retractions, and so it's nice to be able to have that flexibility with your expenses. The other part we see there is, again, like Mike said, you can mix and match. Not everybody needs to have the same license. That also helps your expenses. Microsoft is the market share leader in this market. The other main competitor is Google. And in our area, in DC, Baltimore, Maryland, Northern Virginia, Microsoft is definitely the market share leader. Depending on where you are in the country, Google may be a little higher. It tends to be a little more popular in California, for instance, but this is what everybody's using. Everybody's used to the Microsoft Office environment. And so in terms of working with other companies, in terms of training your staff, there's a degree of familiarity, and there's a degree of it's just going to work because everybody's using it, everybody's familiar with it. So I think that's an important consideration, especially if you're shifting your company or making a longer term investment.
And Russell, if you're a Mac fan, you don't have to be left out here, right? You can get these 365
That is
licenses
absolutely correct.
for just about any device, Android, Mac, you name it.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. So it's a cross-platform application. We like to joke in our office that there are a couple companies, all of them are trying to rule the IT world: Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. They don't like each other, but they also recognize that we all use products from all four of these companies, and so it's got to work cross-platform. So, we can see in the little logo here that, yes, it's going to work on your Mac, it's going to work on your Android device, it's going to work on your iPhone or your iPad.
And you touched on this one a little bit ago, but if you just want a good old-fashioned copy of Office, there's nothing stopping you from doing it.
Exactly. They're still for sale. Microsoft isn't marketing them in the same way. We don't see them going away, though. But what we find an advantage is that our clients really aren't buying standalone copies of Office anymore, and there are a few reasons for that. One is it's a much higher upfront cost. So we're going to see some slides in a minute, but if you're a small and medium business, you can have the Office suite for a person for $8 a month. To get that same feature set with a standalone product, it's $440. Now that's a one-time purchase, but that's going to take you a long time to pay off $440 at $8 a month. That's a multi-year payback. So, and by that time, because a one-time copy of Office, it's not upgradable. When you want to upgrade to a new version, if Office 2022 comes out in a couple of years, you want Office 22 and you're on 2019 now, guess what? You get to spend $440 again, or whatever the price is at that point. So for some of the stuff, we don't think you're ever going to catch up. You're probably better off, especially if you're going to want that latest version, you're better off getting a subscription. That also really applies to some of these fancy pieces of software too. So Project Standard is $620. Project Pro is, I think, $1,000. Whereas you can get a subscription, you've got your project you're starting up, you can get that project manager license for $20 a month and have those Project Pro
really
features set.
Trending and becoming the standard.
Yeah. And I know there are people that don't like that. I know there's this idea of, man, I hate that monthly bill. I understand that. So they still do have this option out here for you. One of the things we like too is 365. They give you support forever on it. It's not just 60 days. And that's important too. So let's look at some plans. Let's look at some of these starter plans.
Because this tells the business owner in a quick snapshot. We should make this an infographic. It's phenomenal.
Yep.
Just right there. There's everything you need to know.
Right.
And what does and does not come. I think that's the most confusing piece for a business owner making the decision about what should I buy.
Right. And again, we're trying to simplify it. So we're going to cut it down to core plans and start there. But this is small and medium business, and Microsoft is pretty generous with that. That's up to 300 employees. So you could be a pretty good sized company.
Medium business. And
still, right, exactly, still qualify for one of these plans. And so I'd say most of our client base, this is what they're using. And again, it's very easy. So you have a $5 a month You have email, you have OneDrive, you have SharePoint, and you have Teams collaboration. So basically anything you need to get your employee up and running in cloud collaborating. It's $5 a month. If you want to add the Office suite to that plan, it's $12.50 a month. So again, very reasonable. We also find a lot of times that a lot of our clients, if they've got an email service that they're going through a third party, maybe it's their website host, often they're already paying more than $5 a month for those email accounts. So there's the cost savings often too. There is that business premium plan, which Mike talked about, and that one has some extra compliance tools and security features. At Advantage, we do a mix. We have some people on this plan. It's a newer plan, though. It only came out this year. So we are, a lot of ways, supporting our existing clients with a standard plan with some third-party add-ons from companies like Barracuda. Your IT company or provider may be doing something like that, too. So you can mix things. You can use things with other vendors. It's very flexible, again.
And
Lastly,
also, along with this being a new plan, they renamed everything just a couple months ago, right? So the names may not look the same as what you're paying for.
That's a good point. And if you're already using Office, you may have seen stuff, the names change on the bill, but not the dollar amount. So in the spring, the first plan was Office 365 standard. The second plan here was Office 365 Premium. There was no third plan. That was brand new. And the last plan, the apps plan, was just called Basic. So I think they kind of, I like the naming change. I think it's a little more specific, you know, and especially that last plan, which is I just need the Office suite, right? Yeah. And so it's called apps. It's right there. So that last plan, that's that person who just needs Office. They don't need email. They don't need cloud resources. Yeah, and so again, this is the standard for probably most of the people that we're going to be talking to today.
I guess for a moment we should talk about the enterprise. You know, specifically in this area, you have a lot of covered contractors. You have a lot of municipalities that may be checking in on this, and just larger. You know, we are fortunate to have a lot of enterprise level organizations based here in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yep, absolutely. The plans are pretty analogous. They're going to be very similar to the small and medium business plans. They tend to add some additional management features to kind of better control user access and data. But we find that most of these extra tools aren't needed in a lot of cases until you get to that larger size. And you can see the pricing's a little bit more. Microsoft knows that bigger companies have a little bit more money, right? So they're going to charge that. They're going to charge what the market will bear. So most of the time, if you are under 300, we say you don't need these. If you're over 300, this is where you go. They have an apps plan, as you can see. They have an E1. That is the equivalent to that basic plan in the small and medium business. That's going to be email and cloud applications. E3 is the equivalent to the standard plan in a basic, with one key difference, and which means we do use E3 plans sometimes for our small and medium businesses. The E3, it's email and apps. However, you get an extra large mailbox. The standard plan has a 50 gigabyte mailbox, which is pretty enormous. The E3 has a 100 gigabyte mailbox.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
One of the neat things is you can actually mix plans across types of businesses. So you can have, you could be a small business and you can have a couple people on an E3 plan because they have very large mailboxes. Again, very flexible. E5 adds phone service to the plan. So you can actually do a voice over IP phone with Microsoft, and that's included in the E5 package.
Russell, I know in the future we're going to talk more about these different technologies, but there are a lot of companies out there say, oh, well, I need that bigger mailbox. And we would probably say, well, you probably don't want to keep that information in your mailbox. It probably should be somewhere else. So that's a little tease for one of our upcoming presentations.
There you go. Yep.
And of course, we have to talk about nonprofits. When you think of Mid-Atlantic, we are the home to thousands of great nonprofit organizations.
And we work with many, we love our nonprofits. And one of the great things is Microsoft has gone out of their way to make these tools available for nonprofits so you can spend more of your money on your charitable work. That basic plan, excuse me, that email and cloud applications, that's $0 for nonprofits. You need to be 501c3 on your tax ID, that's it. We can help you set up the rest. So that's great. And we've moved all of our nonprofits to this plan. If you need apps for your staff, it's $3 a month instead of $12.50. So it's a huge discount, and right, you can spend that money on your programs. And we love
I'm guessing
this.
most nonprofits know this already, but for the handful that we just educated,
I'm surprised at the folks who don't. I was on with one in Baltimore 2 days ago who was not aware of this program.
Oh, no kidding. All
So
right.
it is out there. Take advantage of it.
And we do have to talk about the true government plan, because there are certain government entities that have to follow certain security guidelines, and the government enterprise suite really does talk to that.
Right. Now, I can't show you pricing here. It's government, right? So it's more negotiated, and you have a call with a Microsoft rep to sort of set this up. But there are varying degrees of Microsoft government plans. Now, the most common is G1, so that's not Department of Defense. But that's other secure activities. And basically, these are Microsoft servers that are reserved for government agencies and of varying levels. And so have increased security around them, increased separation around them. There are, again, additional plans with greater security for defense contractors and people doing classified work. And those, involve, they actually have to get sponsored by the Defense Department or government agency you work with, but once you do that, you have access to this plan. And that's good because a lot of defense contractors are still maintaining on-site Exchange servers, which are very expensive to maintain. And so this is a really good option for folks.
So, where to start?
Yeah.
You just threw a tidal wave of information at us.
Did.
Where does the business owner here in the Mid-Atlantic,
right,
in Delmarva, or however you want to phrase it, where do we begin?
Right. So I think start with the things that are most familiar to you and most familiar to your staff and have the quickest return. Either easiest to learn, they're going to have the most immediate impact. So you start with your email because it's a great email platform, especially if you're on an older one that may be part of your web host company where it doesn't sync, for instance. It's a great email platform. It syncs everywhere. It goes across devices. You can have it on your iPhone, your phone, your iPad, your computer, your Mac. It'll all be the same email data everywhere, calendars and contacts. Do that first. That's also a prerequisite sort of to everything else you may want to do. Email's where it starts because that's how we work. We're on our email all the time. So everything sort of ties in to your email account and your address, and that's how you share and collaborate. So start there. Then start adding in some of the cloud collaboration tools. So one of our large clients, they finished their email migration 2 weeks ago, and I had a great presentation with them on Microsoft Teams on Monday, where that's that cloud collaboration. So we went through, here's how to do video calls, here's how to do an audio call, here's how to chat with your colleagues, here's how to send files, here's how to share your screen. I love that one. So that's great, so I can sit there and say, Mike, I'm having a problem with this program. I'm having a problem with this thing. Can I share this with you? And I can go into Teams, hit share my screen. Mike can look at it with me. He can even take over and show me where to click. So that's
you and I'd be lost without Microsoft Teams.
We do our morning meetings in it every day. And that's especially right now with coronavirus, that's a great thing to have people remotely working, collaborating. So that's sort of step 2. And then I'd say step 3 is you start looking at, how do we augment or replace our file server? Because everybody's working remotely now. Instead of people having to VPN in or having to go into the office, can they pull up all their work stuff at home through the internet? And that's what SharePoint is for. That's what OneDrive is for. And so we work with our clients. We'll sit there and we'll plan out, what do you want your SharePoint to look like? How do you want your homepage organized? What data do you want to put there? And there, I'd say take it in small chunks. Take a team of folks, take a project, test it out, feel the waters, see what you like, see what you want to adjust, and then build out. Again, we're always sort of building out from a core and gradually adding experiences and services.
Yeah, Russell, you just made a really good point that I want to go into just a little deep before we go to the next slide. But particularly because we are in this environment right now where everybody's working remotely, businesses are starting to notice that on-premise file server is slow. And that's because everybody's trying to access it at the same time through the internet connection for that office instead of being on the local area network that's inside the office. And you and I know that local area network's usually 10 times faster than most internet connections.
Yep, absolutely. And this way, take advantage of Microsoft's internet server instead of your Comcast connection at the office. Give that a break, and people can work faster.
And this is a great example you put together of how people can pick and choose platforms based on the person's duties within the company. I love that you can have 10 people in 10 different plans if you want.
Exactly.
I probably wouldn't advise that, but you have that flexibility.
And you can adjust on the fly. So, this is the exercise that we go through with our clients when we're migrating them to Office 365, is we basically put all their staff on a list, and then we look at what they actually need. And so we can discover that, hey, Pam all she needs is email. She doesn't have, she already has a copy of Office. She just bought it last year as Office 2019. So we're not going to buy that yet because she's good. So she just needs a basic plan. We're going to see that Kelly, has a company phone and laptop, which she carries around because she's a project manager that goes out to sites. So we want to keep track of that hardware. So, Kelly's going to get email, the desktop, the Office suite, and we're going to add this premium device management. So again, we can mix and match. Now, if Pam comes along and all of a sudden, let's say Pam's computer catches fire, she needs a new computer. That's not a problem. We're going to order Pam's new computer. When it comes in, we're going to change her license type from a basic to a standard. And that's something that you can do in 5 minutes through the Office portal. So again, very flexible and scalable.
Russell, you mentioned this a little earlier, but this can often be a great savings. If a company has 30, 40 employees, they may have half or more of their employees using a more expensive plan than they really need. And you can shift that money towards other resources.
One of the things we've also discovered sometimes when we start working with a new client who's been using Office for a while, especially if they haven't looked at their plan types in many years. And we sat with somebody who really hadn't done that for over 5 years. And their 30 people, they were on enterprise plans and weren't using those features. So we were able to sit there and just basically say, look, you're paying about 50% more than you need to be based on your company's size. There are newer plans now, and let's get you moved over. So that was the work of, an hour to basically review the users, decide what plan they were on, and make the change. And so an hour work reduced their 365 bill by 50%.
It really is worthwhile for a business owner to take a look at this if they haven't in the last few years.
Right.
Heck, maybe they bought them on their own and didn't get any consulting, and maybe they
and we see that too.
And teams, you and I, we're going to do a session on this
we are right. So we're not going to go too heavy into it today, but just to show you, like I said, this is what people are adding right now. Basically, as soon as they do the migration, this is the first thing they want to do right now because everybody's having collaboration and communication problems, and so this makes it easy. You basically have all these really nice features. We do our morning meetings on this every day, and we have since March 13th, and it's been working very well. So really nice product, and they're continually adding features to it. That's one of the things that I really like about 365 is that Microsoft is very aggressively adding new features and applications on a continuous basis. So a good example is in March, Teams could handle 4 video feeds in a meeting at a time. And by the end of the month, they'll be up over 45. So they've been adding, they've been adding support, abilities, new products, and not changing
Demand
the
drives
price, which
change.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And SharePoint, another love of ours. We're going to do a session on this one as well, but this is a nice overview of why SharePoint.
Yeah, so SharePoint is, we like to joke that SharePoint is, it's like an iceberg, and the parts that you sort of first start using are the part above the waterline, but there's a whole lot underneath. But again, we start small and we build out. So the first thing that most of our clients want from SharePoint is, I want a company intranet site. So I want somewhere to put news, to put HR forms, to put a time off calendar, to put notifications to the staff, just a home page. That's how we use it at our office. So when we have a new employee starts, we set that as their home page. They have all the links and bookmarks that they need to do their job right there on our SharePoint intranet site. Second thing people usually set up is documents, and that goes to Mike's point, is that, hey, can we move documents off the file server and put them on Microsoft SharePoint storage? One of the things that I like is that a lot of folks have tried SharePoint before, may have tried SharePoint 5 or 10 years ago even, and it was not a good experience. The product has come a long way. It's much easier to use. And we take a lot of time to kind of train people and make them comfortable with it. So one thing I will tell you, if you tried SharePoint 5 years ago and it was like, it was terrible, I hated it, I didn't know how to do anything, give it another shot now. It's much easier. And they've really Microsoft has gone out of their way to make it easier to transition. So one of my favorite examples is, people are used to going to their Windows Explorer, browsing to My Documents, browsing to the network drive, the S drive, or whatever you have, and finding the file that way. Guess what? If that's how you like to work, that's what you can still do in SharePoint. You can still map it to your Explorer on your computer, and you go directly to the files. A lot of younger clients we have, they like the web interface. That's what they prefer, and that's what they've grown up with and they feel comfortable with. That's what they've been using in school. So they'll say, hey, I'm not even going to bother with that. I don't want that. I just want to be on the website. Either way, it works great. So it's a nice way. You can keep your young employees happy. You can keep your older employees happy.
And as a trend, Russell, you and I over the last 6 months or so, we've seen many companies coming to us saying, hey, look, we have good in-house tech support. We're running efficiently, but we would love somebody to do this SharePoint thing for us because we don't have the time, we don't have the expertise. So that's a really trending item of interest with a lot of technology professionals that you and I talk to on a weekly basis.
There are a couple of things. One is it take time to think about it, and that's why, like I said, we kind of roll it out in chunks and test it with subsets of users, because it's a living document basically, and so you're always making adjustments and changes and tweaks to it to make it easier to use, to give you more features. And so we have project managers that work with our clients on this, and we use sort of an agile method where it's constant feedback between our team and your staff. So, hey, we'd like to see this kind of feature added to SharePoint. Great. What's your priority? When do you want to have that in? We think it's going to take an hour or two to set up. Is that okay? So we go back and forth with our clients, and everybody's on the same page. Everybody's agreeing. I think that's a really important way to work, because it is going to be very it is an intranet site. It is probably going to be the home site for all your staff. So you want it to be friendly and easy to use, and we want to help you build it that way.
And here is our last slide of content. So functionality, and you've touched on this on practically every single slide, is this platform is so adaptable. Your ability to add widgets, to add applications, to add functionality that makes it match your company's DNA.
Yep. And again, this is sort of the third phase, and there's a lot of pretty new tools in Teams. Some of the ones that I like lately is, like I said, Microsoft is doing calling plans. And you can do voice over IP phone licenses through it now. And it's kind of neat because you can either have a desk phone, you can still use that, or you can just use the Teams app on your computer or your phone, because there's a Teams app for that. We've talked about, special niche products like Project or Visio. There's some very interesting business intelligence tools they're rolling out too. So really looking at how your staff uses time. Part of that is tying into that everybody is on Outlook for their email and already using that in their calendars. So one of the things that we get now is there's this little Microsoft sort of analytic email that we get once a week that automatically comes out that basically says, hey, Russell, here's how you spent last week. Here's the proportion of time you spent in meetings, which can sometimes be scary. Here's the portion of time you spent in other activities. Right? Yeah, it is, and it'll kind of say like, hey, you really didn't have a lot of time to work on, individual projects last week. And that may be a moment to me to say, well, let me plan this week better. Let me map out some time to catch up. Microsoft Bookings is an interesting product that's more recent. That's a sort of public-facing website that you can set up through 365 to schedule appointments for people. So the example they use is if you're a salon, basically you can set up a booking site in less than an hour. You can have all the people who work in your salon listed there, and your clients can just hop on this public-facing website and book a time to see one of the salon previews. And that's
just going to be big for retail, huh?
Yeah, and that's just included. If you're licensing through any one of these sort of standard plans, that's thrown in now. Instead of an extra service that you have to pay for. There are some custom form generation tools. There are presentation and streaming tools. So if you do a lot of webinars, there are tools to help get that out and publish things automatically. And like I said, they're always coming out with new things. And most of them you just get for free. So one of the things I like to tell folks, and something I do at least, a couple times a month, is I'll just go to my main office365.com website and I'll click on all apps and I'll see if there's something new there that I can play around with. And that's kind of one of the fun things too. Yeah.
And they're coming out that often.
They are, yeah. And I think they've accelerated the tempo since March. They definitely have in Teams. Microsoft is clearly spending a lot of money and effort on this right now.
Well, Russell, as always, brilliant content. I think you delivered a lot of value to our audience today. I get to work with you every day, so I know how much fun it is. So thank you so much for your information today.
Thank you.
Courtney, Janan, anything that you'd like to add to the presentation today, or if there's questions from some members of the audience, we're happy to address them.
Yes, we can open up the mute part of the for the audience and see if anybody would have any questions. That'd be fine. If not, we can close and until the next event we have.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, great. This was a really good overview. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We're really looking forward to doing this series with you guys. So
well, thank you again.
We have set up a special email address because sometimes people don't like to put their information out there. They don't want to say publicly. So we created answers@getadvantage.com. You can email us answers@getadvantage.com. Whatever your technology question is, we're going to answer it. No sales pitch. We just our thought process is the more value we deliver to people, the more inclined they're going to be to do business with us.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Great.
And we look forward to working on our 365.
Yes.
Excellent.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.